Morning, everybody. Here we are at DataStax Accelerate. This is Kat.
Hi.
And we've been talking about what we're excited about here, listening to the keynotes and all that kind of jazz. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that have like bounded into your mind and just exploded?
Sure. Okay, so keynote today was pretty awesome. You had Nate, the Apache chair for Cassandra, and then Jonathan Ellis. So Jonathan, co-founder, he leads our product team and kind of gave a preview of like almost everything that we have coming this year and even early into next year. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, and I think it's all about ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with...
I kept getting that feeling. I was like, oh, that's so easy
Right.
looking.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I even screamed about it if you were watching the stream. So
It's awesome.
it got pretty intense.
Yeah, so one of the obvious ones is what people have been asking for years, which is a Kubernetes operator.
Yep.
So that's coming. DataStax Desktop, and I don't know if this got the time that it deserved in the keynote, but the idea is that the getting started experience for Cassandra has never been, I don't know, easy for developers. You just want to try out a use case. You just want to, try out SQL, just give it a whirl. And you have to like pull in Studio for development and Ops Center for management, install Cassandra, figure out how to build out a cluster.
Well, that's what I do currently.
Right.
Like even on stream sometimes, I have built out all these things to scale out a little cluster and containers and all this magical stuff. But I have all this junk just kind of there in a weird form.
Yeah.
And then I see this and I'm like, oh, yeah.
We should talk about your job later. But yeah, what we did was automate all that. So now you have the SQL interface, and you work Windows, Mac out of the box. It's all Electron based, and you have this single pane of glass for everything that you want to do. You pull in DataStax Desktop. You say, I want to build out a cluster.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how I'm going to manage it, and it's really useful. And then you say, okay, now I'm ready to deploy that somewhere else. It gives you the Kubernetes. Scripts, the Helm charts or YAMLs. I don't know which way they went, and then you can just deploy it wherever you want. So it's
Very
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. The other thing that I was pretty stoked to see too was the AppStax stuff.
AppStax is amazing.
Yeah.
I am really surprised that we actually were able to give everybody a preview of that. Mm-hmm. I worked with the AppStax team when they were first kicking off their project, and we started by asking customers, what are your biggest pain points? What's the hardest thing about Cassandra? We didn't start saying, we want to build this automated data modeling tool and service layer. We started by saying, what are the pain points?
Right.
And so we figured out, like, what's the top pain point? And for new customers, for folks that hadn't tried Cassandra before, it's always data modeling.
Oh, yeah.
And, really trying to get it right the first time, trying to get that deployed, trying to make it friendly for expansion of use cases and new use cases in organizations. Mm-hmm. And so Mattias, that led the Aurelius team in our graph acquisition of Aurelius, said, well, let's take that on.
Yeah. And
so they spent a year interviewing customers, interviewing community members, some of the other Cassandra partners and vendors, and figuring out what is the best way to do this.
Yeah.
They've really taken on a methodical process in delivering this product, and I think the market's going to love it.
Yeah. Just from manually going through a lot of what that can do for you now,
right,
and then seeing it and seeing them demo it, I just felt like my knees melted thinking, oh my God, I'll be able to get so much more done.
Yeah.
And get to that point where I'm like, okay, I have my data in the ways that I need it. So now I can focus on the other elements to get that to customers faster.
If you're coming from a relational world, it's exactly, by the way, if you want to try this out, it's appstax.io, appstax.io. Sign up there, we'll get you a preview.
We'll get you a link somewhere you can click on real soon too.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the experience that you expect. You go in, you try to identify your entities and the relationships. Mm-hmm. You think about what your access patterns are going to be. From there, it's helping you interactively build these queries, understand your access patterns, and automate the whole data modeling process.
Yeah.
It takes it from being an art that you have to like build on your own to being this like artful, modern way to interact with the database.
That's a good way to put it, because it does feel like when you start building out a data model, it feels like you're creating a piece of art to some degree.
Yeah.
And then you have to like break it apart and really kind of change the piece and make it shape differently as you go through time working with it all.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we've been excited about.
Yeah.
If you are excited about something, you should throw stuff into chat and let us know. We'll definitely engage with you.
Yeah.
But also
Graph
anything
is awesome.
else?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Next Gen Graph.
Yeah.
I don't know what the DataStax Graph, I think, is the go-to-market name for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this acquisition of Aurelius, I think in 2016.
Right.
They're the guys behind TitanDB. So we brought in Titan, which everybody was using with Cassandra already. And we, went through a year development cycle to make sure it worked how Cassandra works, peer-to-peer, highly available.
Mm-hmm.
But it was somewhat complex.
Yeah.
And what we heard is that we want Graph to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want complicated data loads. We want to use SQL. We want this single data model. So it's what customers always wanted Graph to be.
Mm-hmm.
Massively scalable, easy to use Graph database. It's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, and I'm going to tweet some cool pictures of people putting together some amazing queries using, I guess, Gremlin and some other things they're working with to get all that back, and then show you some of the graphs here in just a little while that Dave was working on. And I was filming, and he didn't know it, but it's going live real soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. So all
cool.
good stuff.
Thanks for tuning into the stream, and we'll catch you in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Products being announced now. I've been working on those behind the scenes. I've seen a lot of people work on them for the last year and a half, 2 years. So to finally see it go out there, see it being used, like at the boot camp yesterday, actually the day before.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like to see people actually put their hands on it, to see it being used in practice, in real life, that is so cool. And yeah, I'm just so pumped to see all these products coming out and the change that it brings to DataStax and people using our products.
Absolutely. So today we heard more about Constellation. We actually got that live demo of deploying a cluster, which I was so impressed. I mean, this is a true technology company and fearless, because nobody's afraid to demo live, which is pretty amazing, honestly. So we saw Jonathan Ellis and Matt Kennedy demoing Constellation live, but then, so we saw that. So we have Constellation. Then we also saw an announcement about the desktop. And also AppStax, which I think that's the project that you've been focused on the most. So can you give us just like a high-level overview of what AppStax is all about?
Yeah, so of the products that we have announced, as you said, like we had Insights, we had Cassandra as a service, we had Desktop. AppStax is sort of the youngest in that suite of products.
Okay.
It is also going to be launched on Constellation. We're currently just slow rolling it out, working with a couple select customers.
Sure.
What AppStax is we saw this problem with our customers that they're having a hard time building applications on Cassandra.
Okay.
Because building applications on Cassandra is quite different than building applications on relational technology.
Right.
You have to think about data modeling differently. You have to think about what your queries are, what your use cases are.
Right.
And that can be quite challenging.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking, what can we do from a product perspective to make that easier?
Right.
And that's basically what AppStax is. AppStax says, we want to build a product where you can tell us what your use case is, and we will figure out everything from there. We'll figure out what your physical data model is. We figure out what your cluster size should be.
Okay.
We'll figure out how to provision it, how to tune it, so you just get what you need.
Great.
And we'll figure out all the rest for you.
So could I, like, as that user who's coming in, I have my relational database, I've been using that with my application. Like, what's a good example of an application we could think about as a use case? Maybe like retail.
Retail is great. E-commerce, lots of customers building e-commerce sites. So we have a shopping cart, we have a product catalog. There's a ton of services that comprise an e-commerce system. We see a lot of our customers moving to microservices architectures, which basically means they break down these big e-commerce platforms into more modular, smaller microservices that they can build individually, be more agile, be more responsive to customer needs. And so we built AppStax with that in mind. AppStax essentially exposes a microservice for your data backend.
Okay, great.
So what it allows you to do is when you build a shopping cart, let's say, you can say, I want to have a shopping cart, so I want to have products that I can put in my shopping cart with a quantity, with a price, etc. Standard shopping cart. You can build that data model. then you can tell us what are the queries that you have against your shopping cart. Like, how do I put things into my shopping cart? How do I read what's in my shopping cart? And from that information, AppStax will then generate a microservice, either in REST or GraphQL, that you can then use in your e-commerce platform.
So you can just basically, you'll generate that. I'm going to take that code, I'll just pop it into my application and I'm off and running?
Yeah, it's actually almost even easier than that, because building on Constellation, it's going to launch that cluster for you in Constellation.
Wow.
It's going to give you a REST or GraphQL endpoint in Constellation. And so then you just download the schema from that and you embed it into your application. For people that are familiar with Swagger, for instance, you know that there's code generation capabilities. So we give you the Swagger file, you then download that, you code generate it, and you're basically already halfway there in building your e-commerce shopping cart.
Wow, it's really going to speed up production, like the iterative process that a developer's doing to build something. You're going to speed that up and just make it so much easier for them as well. So especially for me as a developer advocate, that's what I love to hear. Like ease of use for developers, getting something functional quickly. So I think AppStax is like perfectly on that journey to giving that to our developers. So I'm really happy about that. So thank you. Thank you to the team. Right.
You're welcome. And you're exactly right. Like we listened a lot to developers, and we went out there and we're like, what are the biggest problems that you have in building database-powered applications? And people were telling us that they would just like to not think about the database quite so much, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to build applications that are customer-facing, that empower your customers in some way, that empower your business in some way. And so for you to spend all that time working on how do I build my data models, how do I make this scale, how do I make this work in production, all these concerns that you have, they just fall by the wayside, and you can focus entirely on how do I get the right application out the door quicker. One of the great things that AppStax does, in addition to just getting you started, is it makes it really easy to then innovate on your product. So if you later come back and say, oh, there's a change in my shopping cart, the product catalog is different, things change obviously all the time, and in this day and age they change quicker and quicker. AppStax makes it really easy to change the data model, to change your queries, and generate new API endpoints without having to manage database migrations and all those things. So we really put a lot of effort into figuring out how we can empower developers over the entire lifecycle of the application, not just getting them started quickly and then be like, okay, now you're off on your own. Like figure out how to scale this thing, figure out how to run this thing. Like that's all your problem. We're saying, nope,
migrate,
we're going to get you up and running. We're going to get you a production cluster, and when you need to change, because we know you will, we're going to be there for you as well. So that's kind of the philosophy behind AppStax. Thank you.
That is wonderful. And so just a little sneak peek. I'm guessing you're going to be talking about AppStax here at Accelerate.
That is a really good guess. In fact, right after this, I'm going to run off and get ready for another live demo. Wish me luck with the hotel Wi-Fi, but we're trying to demo AppStax live.
Wonderful.
In the next breakout session that we have, and show in detail how it works. Go through the steps of how do you do development on AppStax, how do you go to production, how do you then go back and innovate on your product and update your production cluster. So
and you're going to do all that in your talk.
Yeah, it's going to be super quick. We're going to run through, but we're actually going to run through exactly the e-commerce example that we talked about. We build build a little space shop on top of AppStax to kind of show how it works in a microservices architecture. So we're going to walk through that a little bit and show how it works. So
that's great. Is it going to be recorded so people can watch?
I hope so.
Okay, good.
They can definitely. We're going to put the slides online, and they can see that. If anybody's interested in learning more about AppStax, we have a landing page live. It's at appstax.io.
Perfect.
AppStax with an X at the end, just like DataStax.
Yeah.
Right? And we have a little sticker here.
That's awesome.
And you can go to that website and sign up. And we're currently selecting a couple of customers for the soft launch, and then we'll make it generally available probably early next year-ish. But for now, our emphasis is on getting a couple of customers in. And so if anybody's interested in that, if they see value in AppStax, they can go to the page, sign up, learn more about it too, and hopefully we'll can welcome them on board.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was wonderful information. Thank you. And I feel like everyone who might have been like, oh, maybe they didn't have a chance to see the keynote, they haven't been able to learn about it yet, like that was a perfect explanation of what it is.
Thank you so much.
And so I'll let you go and let you run to your talk. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.